Hi, I'm Fen, better known as Fenricide, and I'm here to show you how to be really stupid at Magic. No, for real, we are going to play some really stupid games of Magic right now. There we go, beautiful. Okay, so what I'm doing today is I'm playing dumb decks, because that is my favorite thing to do in the world. In my first video I played an OTK one-turn kill style deck, where your objective was to just punch your opponent for an absurd amount in the face. This time we're going to be playing Emry Os. Now, I wanted to play Sram, Senior Artificer, who says whenever you cast an artifact, whenever you cast an equipment, vehicle, or aura spell, you can draw a card. Unfortunately, we don't get that because we don't have that many zero-costing equipments. If we had some of the other sets, i.e. Shadows over Innistrad and things like that, we might be able to pull it off. However, we don't. So I have to suffer with this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Emry Os. So let's go over how this deck works. Aetherflux Reservoir is our key combo piece. This is how we win games and kill our opponent. Whenever we cast a spell, we gain 1 life for each spell we've cast this turn. We can pay 50 life, and Aetherflux Reservoir will deal 50 damage to any target. So let's break that down. The second part of the spell is self-explanatory. You pay 50 life, you shoot someone for 50. Seems good. The first part's a lot more interesting. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Now, it doesn't matter whenever Aetherflux Reservoir enters the battlefield, it only matters when you cast a spell. So whenever you cast 1 spell, you gain 1 life. 2 spells, you would then gain 2 life. If you cast a 3rd spell, you would then gain 3 more life. And you begin to gain life exponentially the more spells you cast. But it doesn't matter. So let's say we've cast Mox Amber 4 times in total. Yes, we've got rid of 3 of them, but we still have 1 of them. If we were to play Aetherflux Reservoir, and then play another spell on top of that, Aetherflux Reservoir would be our 5th spell, but then whatever spell we cast after that, i.e. Ornithopter, that would then be our 6th spell, and we would then gain 6 life. We can't gain the life for the other spells that we've cast, but because Aetherflux Reservoir is there, it has seen we have cast a 6th spell this turn. We can then gain 6 life. Now let's go over the engine of our combo, as it were. Emry, Lurker of the Loch. For 3 mana, you get a 1/2. She costs 1 generic mana less for each artifact we control, essentially meaning we can potentially play her on turn 1, if we have the right hand. When she enters the battlefield, we mill 4 cards. We put the top 4 cards of our library into our graveyard. And we can tap Emry and choose target artifact in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. So let's say we were to mill over a Mox Amber, Ornithopter, or Tormod Crypt. What would happen is the following turn, once Emry loses her summoning sickness, we can then tap her to cast one of those spells. Paradox Engine says whenever you cast a spell, untap all non-land permanents you control. Some of you already see where this is going, some of you are still sort of picking up the speed. Essentially, with an Emry on the board without summoning sickness, a Paradox Engine on the board, and a Mox Amber in the bin and 1 on the battlefield, we can generate an infinite amount of mana. So what happens is we have both copies of our Mox Amber, 1 in the graveyard, 1 in the battlefield. We tap Emry so that we can cast the Mox Amber from our graveyard, put it onto the battlefield. Once we cast it, Paradox Engine will then trigger, and we untap all non-land permanents. So what we can do is we can tap the Mox Amber that's already on the battlefield before the second one enters the battlefield, while it's still on stack, and net 1 blue mana, because Emry is a legendary creature. And Mox Amber states that we can add 1 mana of any colour among legendary creatures and planeswalkers we control. So, we've netted 1 mana. Our second Mox Amber enters the battlefield, we get rid of the tapped one. We then tap the new one for a mana, activate Emry again because she untapped with Paradox Engine, and target the Mox Amber in the graveyard. And then we cast it. Then we untap, and we put one on the battlefield, and then we tap that for mana, and we tap Emry again because of Paradox Engine. And we make a lot of mana. In fact, we can make enough mana so that we can cast just about anything in our deck. Well, everything in our deck. So the idea from there is that we have Whir of Invention, which allows us to go and essentially fish an artifact from our library and put it onto the battlefield. We have Paradoxical Outcome, which allows us to bounce a bunch of our cheaper creatures or cheaper artifacts back to hand and draw that many cards. While it doesn't sound that useful, it can actually be very, very beneficial when it comes to the sort of like the mid game and we need to use some chump blockers. Mystic Forge we have so that we can filter the top of our library to some extent. Essentially, we can fish for our zero costing artifacts a lot faster, as well as fish for our Aetherflux Reservoir a lot quicker. We have a Clear the Mind just in case our opponent manages to deal with everything, but we have some form of backup, or we've run out of Paradoxical Outcomes or Whir of Inventions or Emrys, so on and so forth. Golden Eggs just to generally draw cards, ambiently get us there. It's also pretty good to net us a little bit of life against some of the more aggro and mid-range decks, but we lose very quickly to aggro decks. I won't lie. Aggro decks is one of our biggest weaknesses, as with every combo deck. Bag of Holding, whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. We can pay 2 and tap it to draw a card, then discard a card. Or we can pay 4 and tap it and sacrifice Bag of Holding and return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hand. So what we can do is we can kind of get around the sort of hand disruption based decks. So anyone who's playing a lot of copies of Thoughtseize or Duress or those kinds of spells, a lot of hand manipulation and interaction. Bag of Holding means that we can sort of store our stuff away and bring it back later. Back to some of our sort of more protective cards. We have Master Thopterist, a legendary creature for 3 mana for a 1/4 body, and whenever we cast an artifact spell, we can create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Damn, that was a tongue twister. What that means is that for every 0 cost we play while Sai is on the battlefield, we make a Thopter. It's very good for making a lot of blockers. It's also very good for making a large army to attack our opponent the following turn with a form of evasion. It's just in case we don't find our way into Aetherflux Reservoir, or if we need some cheap blockers that don't particularly care about dying. Our other sort of faux protection is Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Whenever you cast a non-creature, for red-blue hybrid, and 1, we get a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Now this doesn't have any form of evasion, as you can see, but it is very good as a blocker. We can target an artifact you control, and it becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until the end of the turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So what we can do from there is we can actually cheat our way into Mox Amber combo. So let's say we have a servo on the battlefield because we've cast a Mox Amber. We can actually down-tick Saheeli, target the servo, and make it a copy of Mox Amber. Now we have to get rid of a Mox Amber, but we always get rid of the original copy, the actual physical card, rather than our servo token. What we can do from there is then begin the process of the Emry Paradox Engine combo. The only thing we have to remember is that each time we sacrifice the actual copy rather than our creature token, who is now a Mox Amber. And with that, we're going to see how many games we can cheat. I suspect... Ooh, one last thing before I forget. We do have 2 copies of Mystic Sanctuary to get ourselves our Paradoxers, our Whir of Inventions, and our Clear the Minds, just in case, and 4 copies of Fabled Passage just for general deck thinning. So, one moment. Our opening hand is double blue, Thopter, Crypt, Saheeli, and a pair of Paradoxers. Not a good starting hand, we're going to have to mull this. This is much better because we have access to Golden Egg and Bag of Holding, as well as a Thopter and an Amber. We may instead get rid of the egg and keep Saheeli. But the mana... We'll get rid of the egg. So our turn 0 is very simple. We don't actually... on a white lifelink. And ooh, that spices up our turn just a smidgen. So we're going to go Thopter into Amber and cheat an Emry into play turn 1. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you cheat an Emry. Oh, and we even got a reservoir in the graveyard. That is actual filth. That is a different breed, I have to say. So, that's bonkers. So now we actually have a pretty good standpoint from where we can essentially just cheat our way into an Aetherflux Reservoir, which is fantastic, I have to say. What do we have in grave? We have a Thopter. Let's just bring the Thopter back. Just in case our opponent plays another Healer's Hawk. And now we can skip the turn. So next turn, we can play a Saheeli. And then the following turn, we can then play a copy of Aetherflux Reservoir. Oh, that's so sad. Maybe not. Our opponent was not impressed with our shenanigans. Oh well. Oh, and there's 2 Emrys in the bin as well. Ooh, that's bad. Okay. Oh well, we can play another one of these. We can then play our Saheeli. We can then play another Thopter and make a non-creature spell. That was dumb. We're just going to activate Fabled Passage anyway, just to empty the deck a smidge. Call it there. Their opponent can't get past us quite as easily. And we do have ways of filtering with Bag of Holding, unless our opponent plays Detention Sphere. If he plays Detention Sphere, he then gets to eat everything. We're going to draw a card, then discard a card. Draw a card, discard, Mox Amber. Which isn't terrible, because this then allows us to use Clear the Mind to get our other Emrys back, and it also gives us great board sweeping protection. We are not going to do it yet. Instead, we're going to move to combat and see if we can trick our opponent. Nope, didn't fall for it. Okay. We want our opponent to use whatever he's got in hand. If he has a sweeper, fantastic. On each other creature. Beginning of your upkeep. Ooh, okay. So that's going to be quite problematic. Does this just stop? Activate its attack. Okay, cool. Ah, ooh, Paradox. See, this puts us in a very, very odd position. We are actually going to return Mox Amber back to our hand. And then pass the turn. So, his Healer's Hawk is going to just get increasingly bigger. We have no way of stopping that. But we can potentially do a lot of damage with our Paradox if our opponent is silly enough to just let us. Which I hope he is. Sure. He is very much silly enough to allow us to get away with this. We're not actually going to block. We're just going to allow Saheeli to die. We don't mind losing Saheeli. We have a Clear the Mind in hand. So now what we can do is Paradox. Target, 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 target. Very nice. I think we wait until combat. Wait until combat, declare our blocks against all three, and then we attempt to Paradox. Oh, this has ruined everything. We could have been off to a fantastic start at this point. I feel a counterspell. Yep, that's a counterspell. That's very disappointing. But no matter. Blue. Play the second copy. Keep the second copy. And we're going to play Clear the Mind. Target me. Then we're going to play an egg. Draw a card, play a land for the turn, and pass the turn. I think this is game over. Yeah, this is game over. That Law Mage's Binding ruined it for us. We could have had a fantastic turn 4. Yet again, a turn 1 Emry. This is just so stupid. The fact that they allow you to just go bonk, bonk, Emry, Mystic Forge. See, now our issue is that because we didn't hit any of our cheaper creatures, we only hit a Forge, we're essentially waiting now. Or the world loves us and is going to give us an egg. We're just going to get that cheeky 1 point in. I think our opponent is probably going to be playing Red-Black Sacrifice or just Red... or... Ooh, Mardu? Bit weird, but sure. So, here's one of the other neat little tricks we can do. We can cast another copy of Emry. And what we do is we pick one to keep, and we can pick the old one. So now what we can do, we can tap this Emry, target our Ornithopter, and then play the Ornithopter. Mardu sacrifice? Mardu... I have no idea what our opponent is playing. It must be like Mardu sacrifice. I don't think I've seen a Mardu sacrifice deck now that I think about it. I'm confused. Here's the good thing, is that Dreadhorde Butcher's never going to get the opportunity to hit us again. It will always run into an Ornithopter. Unless our opponent is about to kill Emry. Which he is not. There's Mystic Sanctuary, but that is not quite what I was after. But no matter. Bring out the Thopters. It does also mean that we can gain 3 life and essentially negate the past couple of attacks, which is very important. Because against this style of deck, their main objective is to simply beat shit out of you. Opponent attacks with everything. We go to blocks and we block the bigger boy. Then we're going to sacrifice the egg to gain some life. Now what we hope is that we get another land off the top that enters untapped. That would be great. And we get it. And again, we're just going to play the Thopter off the top. Because now that we have access to Paradox, Paradox allows us to block as well as bounce our Tormod's Crypt to fish deeper for our Aetherflux Reservoir. And if we can get the Aetherflux Reservoir within a couple of turns, we're going to be alright. These don't have trample. Fantastic. Block to damage. Paradox. Donk, 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 donk. I think our opponent has a kill spell here. At which point he's probably going to kill Emry. Yep. Our opponent pings us and kills Emry, which is to be expected. But we still get to draw 3 cards off of Ooh, there's the Reservoir. So we get to gain 6... Ooh, there's a second copy. Okay, so let's not get too excited. We play Aetherflux first. So this gains us 1 life because we've cast 1 spell. And now that we've cast this, we're going to gain 2 life. Just like that. Now we're going to gain 3 life. Puts us on 20. And now we're going to gain 4 life, which puts us on to 24. Fantastic. So now the next turn... Sure. Jeez, our opponent is just playing Mardu killed stuff? Just absurd. Just absurd. We can take the 6 damage. 6? 6. Yeah, we can take the 6. So we play a land. Can play another copy. So this is 2. This gains us. Puts us back on 20. Now we can pass the turn. And then next turn, we can play Saheeli. If we get a land, we can play Saheeli and Mystic Forge. Ugh. Yeah, sure. He probably wanted to go into attacks first. Oh, well, maybe not, because then now he can hit me for 7. Ugh. Ooh, a Fabled Passage does the trick for us nicely. So we gain a land. We play a Saheeli. Hopefully this draws our opponent off of our life total. And then we can play a Mystic Forge. This is going to gain us 2 life and give us a blocker as well. And off the top, we can pay 1 life. Pay 1 life. Get rid of that top card. Okay, cool. We know a size coming down next turn. So we can just pass the turn here and allow our opponent... Ugh, nasty. Sure. He's probably going to send at least the Flyer and the Plague Crafter at Saheeli. No, he's just sending everything at me. That seems ridiculous. So 5, 10, 11. Pass to blocks. We have to block the 6/5. This puts us very, very close to death. we're going to do is we're going to target this. Pale life. Oh, sad panda. Not enough. Just not enough. Could not find our way to the victory there. I think because he exiled that first Aetherflux Reservoir, I think that put us out of the game. It's just the way it goes. So far we are 0-2. It is not looking good for the Emry combo deck. Which makes me a little bit sad because I really enjoy this deck. It's usually lots of fun. And I usually have lots of fun just messing around, but if I'm not getting my W's, what good is it? Again, it's not quite a turn 1 Emry. But it is an Emry that's... it could be very good, or it could also be very bad. We have Whir of Invention, which is very good. We're just going to go get an island straight off the bat. We're not worried about our opponent knowing what we're doing. We are just trying to get there. Saheeli. Let's play Emry. Death Touch. So there was a Thopter and a Crypt in there. This has got Death Touch, so we're not touching this with 10-foot barge board. Yeah, we ain't gonna fall for that. We're gonna play an egg. Which gets us our 3rd land. Then we're gonna activate Emry, and we are going to bring back another Thopter. This basically means that our opponent isn't going to be able to hurt us anymore. So we can play Saheeli this turn quite safely, as our opponent, for some bizarre reason, decided not to play another creature. Just playing like Death Touch Elves or something? Very weird. Okay, so now we're at 4. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we can either go Mystic Forge and try and find stuff off the top of our library, which seems like a good idea. Or we can play the egg, draw a card. I think we need to find our Mox Amber as soon as possible. I think that's the important thing. We're going to activate Emry. And we're actually just going to play a Tormod Crypt. It doesn't quite matter because Saheeli will give us an additional blocker. It doesn't matter. What do we have in bin? We don't have anything of relevance. So we are going to remove that, clear them. Okay. You don't have trample, do you? No. Master blocks. I'm going to block with both of the tokens, because it doesn't quite matter. We get a Saheeli. We will activate the Forge. Just not getting there, are we? We will draw the SRAM. The Sai, not SRAM. We have a land. We will activate this and we will cast the Ornithopter off the top. So what we can do is we can actually sacrifice one of the eggs and gain 3 life. Whenever Obelisk Spider deals combat damage to a creature, put a 1/1 counter on that creature. Oh, it's that one. Okay. I'm not quite sure. Oh, is our opponent doing something with the Death Touch stuffs? We are going to throw Ornithopter under the bus. We are going to gain some life. Okay. Ooh. Okay, now we're at 5. So now, this is where I can show you the combo. So now we play Paradox Engine. Then we play this off of the top. We add a blue. We target Tormod's Crypt and our Mox Amber. What happens is it now asks us to keep 1, right? We always keep the copy, okay? Because then we can tap this for a blue, use Emry, get back the original copy, cast the original copy, hover, that's the token, so we want to keep that one. Activate Emry again, get back Mox Amber. And this is how it all starts. Yes. Keep this one. Make a blue. Activate Emry. Cast Mox Amber. I should probably be casting that Tormod's Crypt off of the top, but I actually want to leave it there just in case we need to cast it again, cast something else again. It's nice that it's keeping it on the left hand side for us, which I really do appreciate, so that you don't misclick. So 3 and 4 is 7, so we keep this one. We tap this for the blue. We cast Whir of Invention. X equals 4. We find our copy of Aetherflux Reservoir, and now the game begins. So we can start casting stuff off of the top. And here we have an actual Mox Amber, so now we don't have to worry about the copies. Cast this, yes. Gain 10 life. Keep this one, doesn't make a difference. Add a blue. Activate Emry again. Get the other Mox Amber. So now it doesn't actually matter. Yep. We gain 11, which puts us on exactly 50. Doesn't matter. Add a blue. Activate Emry. Cast another Mox Amber. Yeet. And ladies and gentlemen, we will shoot our opponent for 50. Good game, our opponent. Activate this. Shoot you for 50, sir. And there is the combo, ladles and jelly spoons. Admittedly, our opponent was much slower than the last 2 people. Oh, that was a different breed of slow. Ooh. Not quite. That's a mull. That's a keep, and we get rid of Reservoir. We're going to hold on to the Amber for a little bit, just in case. But now, you can use things like the Golden Egg. You can make like 2 mana and then cast the egg to draw a card, which then untaps the Mox Amber. And then you can just carry on in those kinds of ways. And there's nothing really to stop you, which is quite interesting. Not sure what our opponent's doing, but I don't trust it as far as I can throw it. We're going to play a Tormod's Crypt straight away, because if it turns out to be one of the feather decks, I'm going to be particularly upset. Nope, this is white-black. Oh, is this white-black clerics? Ugh. That's not good. We're gonna go with an egg. Draw a card. It's another land. Play an amber. Just hold out. I think next turn we go Bag of Holding and then we start cycling. Sure. A bit of a weird one. Land. Bag. Discard the Pass the turn. The issue is that we can't do this without an Emry on board. So what we need is we need to play an Emry whilst we have a Paradox in hand. Our opponent does not get himself the mana. Well, he's almost there. He has to exile 3 creatures. The issue is that if the creatures are tokens, it doesn't actually work the way he wants it to, which is good. We're going to play a Saheeli. Then we're going to play an egg and draw another card. Okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. So now our opponent is going to focus his attention on Saheeli. We're not in any real danger yet. We can still hold off on blocking for a little bit. Now here is where we're running into trouble, because we don't want to play Sai knowing that our opponent is just going to exile it straight away. So instead we're going to play a Mystic Forge. This turn we are going to block. We're going to block the Murderous Rider and go down to 9. Yeah, you can't exile anything from my graveyard, but... Okay, so now we need to dig. Now we need to really, really, really dig. I have to activate this. I understand that our opponent is simply just going to exile whatever we play with Sai's ability on stack. So we can play Sai. I'm gonna play this off the top. I don't know why he'd want to exile that. He could have just taken it with Profane Procession. Keep this one. If our opponent's just going to let us do it. Why would you exile? There are some people in Magic the Gathering who play certain decks, and it makes me question how they play the game in general. You know? So regardless of how this goes, this is how we realistically want to block. Because we get to keep an additional blocker to protect us from the 4 damage later. Just couldn't get there. That is the death. That one was just poor. That is a mull. This is not quite a mull. I apologize also if you can hear drilling in the background. My neighbor has decided that at 4:30 in the afternoon it's a great time for him to do some drilling. So we have a good part of our combo here. We have the Aetherflux, we have the Paradox. We need Mox. A third land would be swell. We're just going to pass the turn. A Mox and an Emry would be ideal. Like if we can hit a second Mox, or if we could get a Saheeli into our hand. There's a lot of moving parts to this deck, but once you know how the deck works, the deck runs like butter. It's also one of the reasons I prefer Ceramos, because you can simply go off with just Ceram and a bunch of equipment. The equipment just allows you to draw more cards, draw into more equipment, so on and so forth. Paradoxes, bounces them. You get the idea. The deck goes off. Just not getting there, are we? Maybe you draw a card, make this boy bigger. Is he just playing draw cards and play beat sticks, or is he playing flash? Draw cards and beat sticks. That is what our opponent is playing. Unfortunately, because our opponent's creatures are going to get very big very fast. Opt. I'm psychic. We don't need this anymore. Is this how we lose? We lose to not having a third land. I feel like this is how we lose. We lose to not having a third land. Plays the forest. Plays a growth spiral. I don't think another land is going to save us now. Yeah, no. Our opponent is just playing draw cards and beat sticks. That is not the game for us. So, we have gone 1 and 5. Or 1 and 4, sorry. Fun. See you again soon. Ben, signing off.